So Chris Perry is running against Lamar Smith to represent everyone in the 21st Congressional District of Texas. Chris has dedicated his life to fighting for freedom, justice, and equality. He earned his law degree from the University of Texas and subsequently earned a master's degree in economics. As a criminal defense attorney for over a decade in Central Texas, he tirelessly fought to uphold our country's most precious cornerstone, the Constitution, by defending Texans of all backgrounds and beliefs. He's now ready to bring his passion, energy, and progressive values to Washington to ensure that the government protects and provides for both the present, and future generations. Above all, Chris believes that elected officials should represent the interests of their constituents, novel idea, as opposed to corporate and special interest. He tirelessly fights against corruption in politics as he seeks to restore truth and democracy in our government. I give you Chris Perry.
How y'all doing today? Can everybody hear me? All right. My name is Chris Perry, and that's Perry with an I, and that's a very important detail because it means I'm not related to Rick. As Karen mentioned, I am running for Congress in District 21 against Lamar Smith, the same man who is the head of the House Science Committee yet denies the truth of climate change. The same person who says you should get your news directly from Trump, which would probably be his tweets. As Karen mentioned, I'm a criminal defense attorney. My ethic is to zealously represent all of my clients against any infringement on their constitutional rights. And now I want to represent you because our government has been infringing on your rights and the truth. And let's get to why we're here today. The leader of that administration, Donald Trump, has committed crimes that should lead to his impeachment. So to start this case, that I'm going to lay out the case from my criminal justice perspective, which I've had over a decade of experience in, let's start with a tweet. Somebody has a sign that says, taking it to the tweets. Well, I'm going to take it to the tweets right now. Let's start with a tweet he put out in 2014. He said, money has never been the big motivation for me, except as a way to keep score. The real excitement is playing the game. Well, Donald Trump has gamed our democracy, and money is at the root of it. Yeah. To lay out this case, we need to rewind about 10 years. To 2008, our country was in the midst of a great recession. We had a subprime mortgage crisis. People were losing their homes, and Donald Trump was coming off his 4th bankruptcy. He is just not good with money. He could not get credit from our banking system, who was not giving credit to anyone at the time. So we enter a new character, Dmitry Rabolovlev. He's one of Putin's associates, a Russian oligarch known as the Fertilizer King. Well, it was very difficult for Donald Trump to be getting funding at this time. So he was able to make a deal. The deal was that he sold his mansion in Miami for $95 million, the greatest real estate transaction that there has been, and it gave him a whopping $53 million of profit. This is at a time, recall, when nobody was investing in the United States real estate market. And Eric Trump, Donald Trump's son, has been quoted as saying, "We now have all the funding we need from the Russians." And from there, I'm here to tell you that that was not just a bad real estate deal by the Russian government. Rather, it was a calculated attempt to influence our elections, to buy a person with influence that was desperate in this country. And that person they bought was Donald Trump, and then subsequently helped deliver an election for him through hacking the DNC, hacking John Podesta's emails, releasing them to WikiLeaks.
What's in those emails?
What they did then was a weaponized use of information. A weaponized use of information with the ammo of fake news. Subsequent to that, Barack Obama, after that fateful day in November of 2016, when Donald Trump was elected, Barack Obama sanctioned Russia for their electoral interference. And that's where we enter the next element in our story, Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn, who famously... Michael Flynn, famously at the RNC, who was a close associate of Donald Trump, at the Republican National Convention, he's the one that led the chants against Hillary Clinton of lock her up. Well, let me tell you, Michael Flynn, when the government proves its case of what you did next, you will be locked up. Because Michael Flynn, during the transition period, got on the phone with a Russian ambassador, and he told him that Putin do not retaliate against the sanctions of Obama because Donald Trump will be coming in the administration and everything will be okay. And how do we know? How do we know that this was coordinated? Because shortly after that, Donald Trump tweeted, "Great move on delay by V. Putin. I always knew he was very smart." So there is evidence of a conspiracy between Flynn, Putin, and Trump to hijack our democracy. Now we all know that following Flynn's, because he was a close associate and a loyalist to Donald Trump, he became our national security advisor for what? 24 days, because it was made public that he had lied about that critical phone call to the Russian ambassador, that treasonous phone call undermining Barack Obama's sanctions. Once that was revealed, Donald Trump had no choice but to fire him. But, and this is very important, Donald Trump could not let Michael Flynn go down in flames. Because if Michael Flynn went down in flames, he would do what? He would seek immunity and put Donald Trump and his administration under the bus, because Michael Flynn truly only cares about Michael Flynn, and when he was facing a prison sentence, he would tell the truth about what really happened in exchange for immunity. So this is where the downward spiral begins. This is where the crime begins that leads to why we should impeach Donald Trump. Donald Trump famously had a conversation with James Comey over dinner, demanding loyalty. We all know that James Comey, for all his faults, was a respectable man and refused to give that loyalty because he is an objective FBI man. And the FBI, above all, has integrity. He only promised what we can only demand for our government officials, Republican or Democratic alike. He promised honesty. And following that, that wasn't enough for Donald Trump, because in a meeting with top-level officials, he asked everyone to leave except for James Comey. Why did he do that? This goes back to my criminal law background. He didn't want witnesses in the room. It is highly irregular to not have the head of the Department of Justice or some superior and have a one-on-one conversation between the president and the FBI director about official matters. Yet, he asked Jeff Sessions to leave, Mike Pence to leave, and everybody else to leave because he didn't want any witnesses. And you know what we call that in criminal law? We call that intent. And then we all know what happened next, because James Comey did not relent on the investigation. Rather, he continued at it, and Donald Trump fired him. We know the purpose for that firing because he admitted it to Lester Holt, that it was because of the Russian nonsense. So we have all of the elements from Donald Trump's own words and James Comey's testimony to fulfill an obstruction of justice charge. If Donald Trump were my client, and thank God he's not, but if he were my client, I would be advising him to take a plea bargain. So, the question people often ask is, well, why do we need to start impeachment proceedings if there's a special counsel led by the respectable Robert Mueller doing the same job? And the answer is this. The special counsel is not truly independent from the administration. We no longer have independent investigations because that was done away with in 1999. Instead, the special counsel answers to the Department of Justice. And they ultimately get their funding from the Department of Justice. And do we have any faith that this Department of Justice will allow a full investigation into this? Especially when Donald Trump has tweeted the fact that it hinted that he could fire Mueller if he got too close. And moreover, who runs the Department of Justice but Jeff Sessions? A man who lied in his confirmation hearing, who said he was recusing himself and yet justified the firing of Comey, which was attached to the Russian investigation. So we cannot have faith in that. And that is why I call for the impeachment proceedings in the Congress. The Congress is where we can use the subpoena power. And once they are done building a foolproof case with that subpoena power, they can forward that case to the Senate, who will have no choice but to convict and remove Donald Trump from office. With the 4th of July coming up, it is very appropriate to think of the words of our founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence signed on July 4th of 1776. On Friday morning with my fellow freedom fighters in the criminal defense community, we recited the Declaration of Independence, our annual tradition, outside the courthouse. And certain words resounded that are especially appropriate today. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. I am running for Congress to fight corruption. I am running for Congress to have an open and transparent government. This administration conducts its business behind closed doors, in secrecy, with its agenda dictated by dark money interests. And ensuring that the Koch brothers and Russia get what they paid for, which is the tyranny of the few, in order to suppress and dominate the majority of Americans. We must impeach Donald Trump. We must restore our democracy. Thank you all very much. If you want to learn more about my campaign, visit chrisperryfortexas.com. That's Perry with an I. Follow me on social media. We can fight for the future.
Rise up!
Rise up!
Resist!
Resist!
Insist!
Insist!
Persist!
Persist!
I'm going to bring up the choir again, and they're going to do Quiet by Milk.
Low energy.
Let's hear you sing.
Can you use your man voice next time you talk?